Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Lucore Automotive. Today, I'm doing something with my 1979 AMC Spirit AMX that I've been wanting to do for a little while now. For those of you who've been following along with this car, it is a 1979 AMC Spirit AMX, AMC 304 under the hood, rebuilt about 20,000 miles ago. It's about a 9-to-1 compression motor, reasonable camshaft, nothing serious. It does have a 4-barrel carburetor with a 650 Brawler carburetor on it. It is a 5-speed, or formerly 4-speed, now 5-speed, and 287 rear gears. It has dual exhaust that sounds pretty dang good, and it's a great little car. Sounds good, looks interesting, runs great. Runs great. But something we've always been a little curious about is our good friend Luke over at Thunderhead289 happens to have this little Carb Cheater product that he's been running on his Maverick. Well, Luke is good enough to start selling these little suckers, and we bought one while we were on power tour. So I'm going to install this thing on my AMC 304, and we're going to just give ourselves an honest review about what this thing can do. Now, full disclosure, before we get started, this car has been tuned on the chassis dyno. It made a little over 200 at the tires as it sits right now. It's a mechanical secondary carburetor, and it runs well. It's not perfect, but it runs well, especially for a carbureted car. Idle's great. It's got good throttle response. It pulls well to the top end, no problem. But carburetors have always got a couple of weak spots as far as where they are either rich or lean, and it's very hard to tune that out. Whereas with Luke's little product here, the Carb Cheater, he can kind of automate some of that stuff. And it comes with a wideband, it comes with a bunch of stuff. You know what? Let's just get this inside real quick. Let's open the box and show exactly what's in this. We can talk about it. Let's get this thing installed. So give me a second. Sorry, foot slipped. All right, so let's see what kind of goodies Luke put in this box. We have our Carb Cheater Brain beta tester. Go me. Fortunately, Luke decided to bring a couple of these along on power tour and give a couple of us the ability to kind of get in before the ground floor, basement dwellers, and let us test some of this stuff. Now, this thing does have a wideband O2 sensor with it, different band clamps depending on what size your exhaust is. If you want to use the clamp-on version, which is this little flange guy here, and a gasket, so you can just use a stepper bit, drill the exhaust, and then band clamp this down on top of the exhaust. Or if you want to use a weld-on plug, you can do it that way, however you prefer. Most people, obviously, if they're doing it at home and they don't have the ability to weld, would prefer the band clamp way. And there's your little magic doohickey that does all the magic doohickey stuff that tells it to do. Some hardware. Apparently this is quite the trick little pen, because this is a Carb Cheater, thecarbcheater.com marker. And look at that. Isn't that fancy? So when you're going through a bolt hole, you can scribe your lines easier instead of having to worry about it. That's a nifty little pen. Thank you much for that, Luke. We got our wideband O2 sensor that comes with the kit. It's included. And that'll go in the exhaust to give me my AFR readings. I've got my wiring harness Don't let this scare you. It's not that big of a deal. So you've got lines that go to battery power and they go to your carb signal. And then you've also got wires that go to your doohickey. So that's all that stuff there. You've got inline fusible link, comes with it. You have several feet of vacuum hose. Be able to get that done. I'll show you how that works here shortly. Breather. Electrical connectors. Spiffy Diffy phenolic spacer with both a front and rear vacuum port on it. You'll see how that works here shortly. There's also ports that are in the front here that you need to be cognizant of how that's done. If they're swept up or swept down, there's a proper way to install that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Carb base gaskets. Some more electrical connectors. And the most important bit, stickers. Install wise, there's really not much to this. Basically, you pull your carburetor off, you set this plate underneath it, which has a top side and a bottom side installed correctly. And you're going to have a vacuum signal in the front and vacuum signal in the back. You run your vacuum hose from this and this to the vacuum ports on this. This guy and the brain you mount wherever you want to mount them, which is not real big, this guy here. So this and this are mounted in the engine bay. You have a little bit of wiring, which is pretty simple. Even I can do it. At least Luke promises me I can. And that's it. The nice thing is, it's not really a band-aid. It's not really I wouldn't say it's a cheater. It's kind of a teacher at this point in time. It optimizes where the carb is running at all times, and it automatically can adjust itself. But it also gives you that wideband O2 sensor so that you can see where you are as far as being able, if you want to change your jets and that kind of thing. So you can actually fine-tune your carburetor as well if you don't happen to have a dyno, your own dyno, so that you can do that kind of thing. But really nifty little ability. It also gives you the ability to connect to your phone, because this guy has a Bluetooth controller in it, and it can connect to my phone and not only shoot that telemetry to my phone, which I can also adjust things like where I want it to run in the air-fuel ratio range, where I want to set my base idle to. I can change a bunch of that stuff that's in that phone. I can also data log it as well, so if I'm making a pull down the road, I have the ability to actually data log where my AFRs go. It pulls a tack signal as well, so I'll be able to see that. Nifty little piece of equipment. That guy Luke's a lot smarter than he looks. So let's get the hood open and start the installation process, start trying to figure out where we're going to mount this stuff. And we'll go from there. Woo-wee! Look at that AMC 304 goodness. As you can see, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of room under the hood of this little guy. Fortunately, I don't have a lot to install. Basically just this and some hoses. I think I'm going to put my Carb Cheater itself over here on this wall. I think that'll work just fine. There's nothing else I got to worry about. I can run it underneath my heater core lines. And then my vacuum pod I can run side by side with it, which bolts in with 2 sheet metal screws, and that'll go right there. Bob's your uncle. I think we're in good shape. I think we're going to be just fine. So, I don't think we're going to have any fitment problems with this stuff. That shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to take this guy up in the air real quick before I drill any holes in my pristine ride to mount these guys. I want to make sure that I have a location for my O2 sensor underneath the car, because it needs to sit kind of more of a vertical. And this is a long tube header car with an X pipe. I want to make sure I've got enough room. I've also got this thing wrapped with DEI header wrap. So I want to make sure that I've got myself a location that works. So let me get it up in the air real quick and we'll look up underneath this guy. Long tubes that are header wrapped, like I said, we use the DEI titanium header wrap on it. And I don't want to drill into my headers because those are expensive. But I'm thinking I'm going to go right here in my pipes X pipe, and I can run the wiring up safely away from any exhaust, I think is the idea. I want to try to keep my wiring as safe as possible, so if I put the wire here, I can run it up along the side of the transmission, up into the engine bay. Yeah, I think we're going to be alright. Alright. My little wideband O2 sensor that comes with a kit. I just got to make sure it doesn't interfere with anything else. That guy goes there. Turn off. Yeah. Perfect. Now all I got to do is just drill a hole. Yes, I'm a hand tools kind of guy. I realize I can do this with faster with power tools, but that's not my style. One thing also to keep in mind, as far as when this thing gets put back together again, exhaust leaks on a carbureted car, not that big of a deal. Exhaust leaks on something that's getting an O2 signal, very big idea, or very big problem. So, when you make sure you put this thing back together again, you better be dang sure you don't have any exhaust leaks. Otherwise, you're going to get improper signal to your wideband O2, which will freak out the computer, which will make it do things it doesn't need to do. Hey Jeff, can I borrow you for a second? Yeah. I need to drop this exhaust down and I'd like to not drop it on my head. Let's get up in there in the X member and I'll whack this. Perfect. Thanks, sir. These are some flow masters we had as extra junk that was just sitting around. We took off somebody else's car. And then this is a pipes 2.5-inch X pipe that we shortened in order to make this work as far as for our sizing goes. Got my spot right there, so we'll get a stepper bit and a drill, cut our hole, we're done. One of these for that. Safety glasses. I'm a little nervous. And Rich double walled this. Looks like it. Which means that's not going to work.
I mean, it will. It'll just take a lot of time. Also, I don't know.
Well, it won't, because then the O2 sensor won't be in the exhaust stream. It's got to be in the exhaust stream. Come back here and hope for the best. Yeah, that's not getting me much. Safety glasses. All right. this bitch is gonna seal.
Well, that's the part that JB Weld exists for.
You think it would have more convex, concurrent?
I'll see. Nope, gotta go one more size more. That'll do, donkey. The subject of do as I say, not as I do. The problem now I have, let me show you this, is where I drilled this hole, that's great, right? I don't want to go through here because I don't think I'm gonna get enough penetration with the way that this is flared, because I know Rich put an inside pipe inside this. I'm worried it's not going to be in the stream. So we went back 2 inches to go to drill it here. The problem is where I drilled this with this gasket and with this plate on here, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but there's a flare here where this is not going to mate up correctly, and I'm going to end up with an exhaust leak literally right at, or likely end up with an exhaust leak right at the O2 sensor. So we're just going to skip the band clamp situation and just weld this plate right on yonder. Don't judge the welding. So that's on, should clear. Let's get the exhaust mounted back up in the car, get our O2 sensor screwed in, and that's the hard part. The easy part's put all the wiring and stuff in the car.
You can't move that thing down now. I'll try and lift up on it and use my keyboard.
Got it.
There you go.
Alright. Now, hopefully, I think I got enough room for the O2 sensor. Hopefully.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, we are all tightened back up. Our O2 bung is right here, which should still give us plenty of room. Let's go ahead and screw our O2 sensor in. Make sure that that's good, and then we'll figure out our routing to protect the wiring from exhaust heat. 1 second. Alright. Yeah, buddy. She'll fit just fine. Go ahead and tighten this guy down. Okay, nice and tight. Now, I've got a spot on the side of the trans that I can zip tie this to keep that out of the way. So there's our install, and I'm gonna just zip tie this to this ear of the trans, and then I can run this guy up that way to be able to run it up into the engine bay and try my best to keep it out of the way of anything hot. I am sure there's at least one smarty pants that says, hey, there's enough holes in your floor, you could just zip tie it into the hole in the floor. Yeah, I could. You're 100% correct, smarty pants, I could. But I'm not gonna. I'm not that unprofessional. Alright, that guy's that way. We'll cut off our excess there. Pigtail's nice and safe. I like it. Let's drop this thing down and get stuff done on the top. Next stuff, air cleaner off, carb off. I already have a spacer underneath this, so I'm just going to replace that spacer with this spacer. Yeah, should be simple. No big deal. Ah. Oh. Let's see if we get lucky enough to get this guy out of the way just to sneak that spacer up and out without pulling my fuel lines off. That would be nice if we're that lucky. We may not be, we'll see. Oh, come on, baby. Come on. Oh, come on. Yeah, buddy. All right. So, whew, man, this is tough doing it. It's a short guy. Pull the spacer off. Come on, baby. All right. Quit fighting me. Be nice. Whew. Whew. Okay. So, spacer is off. New spacer. Old spacer. Almost identical thickness. This one's just a skosh bigger than the one I had on there, but it gives us both of our vacuum ports sub carburetor, which is what we're looking for. So it's got our base gaskets down, and then we'll put this guy on, move from there. Whew, it's hot out here. Alright, so these little ports, I don't know if you can guys to see that, but there are little ports. There you go. Those little ports, they're on all four corners. They are are supposed to be oriented downward. So if you look in there, you can tell if it's going up or down. I want it to go down, which is this way. It does not say top or bottom, at least not on my version. It might say it on your version, but I want to make sure that the hook is going down, which it is, and then we can install this way. I'm also going to follow instructions from Uncle Luke and use some red tack on my gasket to immortalize my gasket surface. That way I don't have to worry about my gaskets tearing or drying out. If you don't know Luke, Thunderhead289 on YouTube, you should definitely check him out. Crazy mad scientist. He's the guy that invented this thing. Figure out where I put my carb gaskets. This is going to take a bit. I'll be back with you in a moment. Alright. Carb gasket is immortalized. Let's get this gooey nasty thing on my carb studs. Oh, get on there. Get on there. Go clean up my hands. Hands are all clean again. Now I look like I don't work for a living. One more time. Alright, so ports are going down. Let's get this guy installed. And then my other gasket. All right. Whoop! Don't drop that. That's the expensive bit. Piece of cake. Reinstall. That wasn't hard at all. That was a rhyme. Alright, let me get my nuts down, get my carb fully secured down. We can run our vacuum lines, figure out our wiring and where to final mount this thing. We're getting there. Now you don't need to ooga-dooga these. It's just tight. That's good. Alright. Nice thing is we didn't mess with any of our throttle linkage, so all that should be fine. Bowls should still be full. All that's good. Okay. Why am I doing this in the heat? Too fat for this. There's a couple different ways I can mount this guy. And I think what I want to do is I want to mount it this way. I'm going to put my Carb Cheater box facing this way, and then this has vacuum tees that need to go to it, as well as wiring harnesses that need to go to it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it this way with the vacuum tees pointed towards the back. Put it side by side with a cheater brain. That way the wiring just goes directly from that to that. My O2 sensor plugs directly in here, and my vacuum hoses will come off the back and just go right up around the firewall. The rear one tees right in there easily. Front one should tee right in up there easily. And I think that's our best bet. It's gonna miss. I'm gonna be able to mount it low enough to not worry about any issues with the hood hinge. I think that's our smart choice. Let me grab my patented Carb Cheater marking pen, mark my holes, and get my self-tappers out. Just FYI, they do include carb studs if you need the longer carb studs, if you're not running a spacer already, as well as the hardware self-tapping screws for mounting of the solenoid as well as the brain itself. Various sizes. Yay, so far I love this product. Welcome back, folks. Whew, let me catch you up on where I was. Battery ran out on the camera. So, me being cute and deciding I wanted to stash my Carb Cheater in a place where it's sneaky caused myself a lot of nightmares. Trying to get my fitment in this corner and trying to drill holes to get this thing to sit in here. Not a lot of fun. There's not a lot of room in here, as you can tell. Especially with my heater hoses trying to get a drill in there. Not a good time. But we've got my cheater box mounted there. I've got my module there. Now I've got this actually zip tied to this for the moment just to hold this here so you guys can see what's going on. But there's one pigtail that goes to this piece, and it's got the two inputs, front and rear, on the carb plate, and then it's got the extra one that's on the top. And then we have another one that runs through here that I routed all the way down that way, which is our O2 sensor lead. So I need to get underneath the car real quick, get that connected up, and then make sure the rest of that wire is tucked out of the way, because I don't want to get it on the wiring or on the header. Woo boy! Why do I grow long hair and a beard in the middle of July when it's hot outside? Be back with you in a minute. I need some water. Alrighty, so here's our pigtail for our O2 sensor. Our O2 sensor wire is up here. This is pretty simple. It only plugs in one way. Why does that not click? Man. Okay. So we've got that on there. Now we need to secure this wire out of the way. Okay. Wire's out of the way of all the exhaust. Plug is plugged. Bob's your uncle. That was easy peasy. All we've got left is some reasonably simple wiring and running a couple vacuum lines. Because AMC and everything is mounted in the front here, well, this could be a little tricky, but we should be able to get our front vacuum hose up here on the front vacuum port. Just shove it on in there. Okay. We're gonna run this vacuum line underneath the fuel line down here on the manifold and just zip it to the underside of that fuel line, bring it back along the firewall and into the port. That way the install looks reasonably clean. Not that I'm real worried about appearances, but you know, might as well. So let's get this guy routed. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Looks pretty good. Won't look bad at all. I'll zip tie those suckers on there. Yeah. That'll leave us plenty of length left to do our rear port. So let's cut our hose off. Alright, I've got a little extra line just in case. Looks like I got some angelic glow around me. It's just the light from the door being open. Don't worry, I'm not an angel. Bring me an angel right now. Alright, got our rear port back here somewhere, right there. Get on there. Okay, we're on there. And we got more than enough to run this line over here. Those are installed. So we got our front one. I'm gonna snake that underneath the fuel line there. Front one goes in line with the breather and with the solenoid. And then the rear one goes with the map sensor to the rear vacuum, which you probably can't see and I can't get a camera back to. Just trust me, that's where it is. And then our little breather box, or our little breather goes on top of that, which is right here. Little bitty little breather. Little bitty little breather. Yeah, that goes right there. Alright, breather installed. All the physical install stuff, at least the hard stuff, is done. Now it's time to do the wiring. Man, this is fun. It's really not that hard though, to be honest. It's you know, installing a phenolic spacer, running 2 vacuum lines. You know, this part I got a little cute with, but otherwise this is, so far, not that difficult of an installation. Now, the scary part, wiring. Wiring, the scariest of scary. All right, there are 7 wires in this whole kit. 3 of which you don't need to worry about. Or at least I don't have to worry about. You might have to worry about it. Blue one is a analog O2 sensor wideband. If you happen to have one, this kit comes with one, so you don't need that. The black and yellow wires are for a relay setup, which I'm not going to be using. So I don't need either of those, or any of those 3 wires. There are 2 yellow wires in this kit. So be careful that you grab the yellow wire, that you the correct yellow wire, which is the one that's next to the red wire. But then it's normal, so you would have positive to your battery, negative to your battery, red, black. Positive to your coil, yellow, lightning, yellow. And then ground, which is green. And so those go to the coil, those go to the battery. So battery's right here. That's a nice little easy install. And it comes with the connectors. So all I got to do is connect those 2 to my coil, connect those 2 to my battery, and this thing should work. And then magic happens. I don't know how he figured this out. That man is way too smart. Let me get a couple of wires cut and spliced here real quick. And some connectors on. We'll get this thing going. Turn the key and see what happens. Optional step in installation. Some of you may want to do this, some of you may not. It does come with 2 fusible links. One's a 7.5 amp with a fuse, the other one's with a 2 amp. This is the part that goes on the battery side. Locate this near the battery. Just in case something goes wrong, it pops this fuse and doesn't short out and possibly melt your car down. This car has, we'll say, questionable wiring. We haven't fixed any of that yet, so this is something we're going to do. So the 7.5 amp goes on the ignition, or goes on, excuse me, on the hot side, on the battery side. The 2 amp fuse is going to go over here on the coil, and we'll just kind of tuck that sucker over there. Welcome back, sports fans. Well, ignition coil, you know, of course, has to be something simple. You have a positive post and a negative post. Typically speaking, you put an eyelet type thing on it, and you can put 3 or 4 different eyelet type things. It's got a nut on the top and a washer, and you stench it down, life is good, right? Yeah, not so much. This thing runs a antiquated piece of Ford ignition that has a plastic hard piece that's got the spade connectors built into it, and the top of the coil can't accept anything other than that type of spade connector, which I don't have. So what I did is I used some vampire clips and I clipped in, which is not exactly how I'd like to do this, and I'm going to need to clean up my wiring quite a bit, but essentially I just cut the wiring off that was leading to it, and then vampire clipped in 2 to 1. Should work fine. I give it at least a 50-50 chance. 60-40. We'll see. Let me finish tightening everything back up, and then we're at the turn the key and see if it works. See if my car still starts. Will be step 1, and then we'll see if the my little device start working and I can communicate with it. Hopefully my car restarts. All right. That went through. No big deal. Tighten that guy up. I have my positive wire direct to battery positive. I have my negative wire direct to battery negative. I had my 7.5 amp inline fuse inline on my battery that's sitting right here next to my battery. I have my green wire going to my positive on my coil with an inline 2.5 amp fuse. I have the green line vampired in to my ground line on the coil. I have my O2 sensor plugged in. I have my wiring harness plugged in. I have my map sensor plugged in. I think that's it. Turn the key and find out, I guess. I don't know why I'm scared about this. This is a simple thing. But whenever you're working on questionable wiring and you mess with it, Things often don't work anymore. Ask me how I know. All right, let's turn the key and see what happens. All right, well, first initial fire up with my Carb Cheater installed on the AMX. Let's see if we've got fire. Well, not fire. I don't want fire. No. So we have no spark. Why do we have no spark? Poop. Why do I have no spark? Oh! Ignition coil wires off. I bet that'll affect it. Take two. Yeah, buddy. Something's not quite happy. Spacer is a tiny bit thicker than the spacer I had on there. Well, it's running. It's idling. Alright, let's get on here to the Play Store, which is still the dumbest name for an app store. Carb Cheater. Carb Cheater. Vehicle and Autos. Beta. It's not the workout app, it's that one. So, let's be honest. I could probably use a little bit of the latter as well. Thanks for trying out this app before it's released. Open app. While using the app, allow access, yeah. Connect module. Close out of the app and go back in. Yes, allow it to access my Bluetooth. Turning on Bluetooth. Okay? Connect module. Oh, wait. I need to go into my Bluetooth. Getting device name. Hey! It sees something it wants to connect to. Carb Cheater. Look at that, right there. Carb Cheater. Enter pin to pair with carb, usually 00. Hang on, let me watch the video. Okay, apparently it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I watched the video. Okay, I believe I am connected to this thing. I forgot a step. So, pardon me, I did this off camera. So when it asks for the password to log into the thing, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your Bluetooth sync thing. Once you've done that, it then asks what your serial number is. And the serial number is on your box, so everybody has their own serial number. Then, once you do it, you open up your Carb Cheater, connect input product key. Module product key is unique to your specific unit. Incorrect product key will invalidate the app. So, I need to input my 4-digit product key. Which I have now done, updating my product key, and it gives me my setup interface. Now I can play with all kinds of different stuff here. I can change my idle AFR, my cruise AFR, my rev limiter, 2-step control, all kinds of nifty things. Turn to main screen. How about them apples? I'm connected to a carbureted car with my phone. And my AFR is not terrible. It's 13.7 at idle. Idle's at 700 RPMs. So my idle's a little low, which we can hear. You know, target 850 or so. Vacuum is good. I'm not far off, man. We're idling real close. I just got to bump my idle up a little bit. So, that's awesome. There you go, folks. I now have the input, or the ability to tune my car, sort of, or at least get feedback from my car, with my little phone. Pretty freaking cool. Now, the nice thing with this is going to be, well, I'll show you. Hang on a second. Let me grab my other camera, hang on. Alright, so as you'll see, none of my in-store tacks work, which is not a real big deal. But you can see as I get into the throttle, the nifty thing here is, aside from the fact that we have a dyno here so we can iron out some of the drivability issues, if you didn't have a dyno and you were just a normal person, you could use this and actually be able to monitor your AFR. This also has the ability to data log directly to my phone, so I could go driving around and see where my issues are, which is super useful. Obviously I need to dial up my RPMs a bit, as far as my idle goes, and I am a little on the rich side at idle. But what I really want to know is what this thing is like driving. So let's go for a quick little drive. Before test drive, make sure no tools are loose, clean up after myself. Make sure nothing's on fire. Put my air cleaner back on, which also could be part of why it's running the way it's running. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm very excited for that. So let me clean up after myself real quick. I got a couple things I want to put away. I'll be right back with you, and then we'll go for a quick little test drive. Okay, air cleaner's on. Now the nice thing here is this Carb Cheater is a addition. It's not a replacement thing like the EFI units you could do. The point being, if that Carb Cheater fails and stops doing what it's doing, it just stops cheating. And it still works as a carbureted car. There's nothing in the way. There's nothing. It's just still old school. All it does is it doesn't use its new school toys. Whereas if the newer EFI type unit, not saying there's anything wrong with those, but if the newer EFI unit dies, you're stranded. You're not going anywhere. You have no ability to eject fuel. Nothing happens. So this is an interesting idea to be able to still have the undying features of carbureted with some of the custom information, custom tuning, diagnostic usage of an EFI system. So pretty nifty, pretty nifty. We're gonna go for a very quick drive because the sun is fading. As you can hear, idle is a little low. It did start to pick itself up. Now the neat thing with this is, so I have not hit this little button here that says auto tune. Just for giggles, let's hit this button. I'm idling at 700 RPMs right now. Do both idle and cruising. That's freaking cool. Instantly bumped my idle up 100 RPMs and 2 more inches of vacuum, and look at my AFR. Right there. Targeting 850 idle, 850 idle, 14.5 inches of vacuum. Impressive. All right, let's go for a quick little drive. Here I can drive around and I can turn this into data logging mode. Data logging will allow me to go back after my drive and see where I have lean spots, where I have rich spots, how it does. Let's see how the throttle response is. Cruising at 14.1. Now, that's with auto tune on. Let's turn auto tune off and see what happens. Turning auto tune mode off. And it shuts itself up. Well, there's a lot more to play with this thing. It is dark outside. This is a brand new untested little bit of kit. I have nobody around to save me in case I have any issues. Not from what Luke did, but from me doing all of the fiddling. So, yeah, there it runs. There it goes pretty rich. It's down to like 11.5. So it'll be interesting to see if it can clean up my my tip-in on throttle richness issue. But that'll be for tomorrow or the next day. Whenever I get a chance to drive this thing, it'll be tomorrow, I promise. Whether or not you see it tomorrow, I don't know. But I'm gonna get this thing back in the shop as the sun's starting to fade. Very cool. I'm really, really excited about this little gadget. I'm very impressed with Luke, Thunderhead289. If you don't follow that guy on Instagram or YouTube, follow this dude. He is a genius. Yeah, I can put it that way. The man's a genius. He's fantastic. Super humble guy. Designed the software for this thing, designed the hardware for this thing. Basically, just kind of mad scientist this thing into living. And now it's a thing. So, go show that guy some love. I'm not sure by the time you see this whether or not this will be a publicly available product or not. Maybe, maybe not. It will be something publicly available soon. I have no idea what the price will be. But I love it so far. And I've only just started to play with it. So, thanks for being here, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I will see you soon. Lots more adventures to come in the 1979 AMX. Got some fun coming up this weekend with it. I've got a new motor that's almost done for it. All kinds of plans for this car. So stay tuned. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.